Hi, Dr. Mike, and this is lecture number 2 for Change Management 310. And so today we want to talk about the nature of planned change within an organization and talk about some models and how this is done to give you kind of a foundation of as we move through the course. I think this will be very, very helpful to you. There are several theories of change that are used within change management. And those frameworks will involve one of four things, or maybe a blended approach to parts of all four into one, but they are very important. They are the three-step change model, which is the oldest and the one that was used first. And then we have an action research model, a positive model, and a continuous change model that ends up being what we are looking at. So let's look at each of these individually for a few moments and talk about what's involved with those. Think about yourself within the framework of a company and how these would work. There's the three-step change model in which most organizations reach what's called a steady state, or they get to a place of lethargy where there's not much going on or not much change happening, and maybe that change is not needed. But behavior at any moment in time is the result of two groups of forces that are striving to maintain the status quo, and that's the one side, and the ones pushing for change on the other side. When both sets of those are about equal, the current behavior is maintained in what Lewin, the guy originated this idea, termed as a state of quaternary equilibrium. So we basically reach a side where there's nothing actually going on, the steady state. Change comes when the forces of change will push beyond the equilibrium and overpower the steady state. So that's important. To change that state, one can increase those forces pushing for change. You can decrease those forces or apply some combination of both. For example, the level of performance of a work team might be stable because group norms maintaining that level are equivalent to the supervisor's pressure for change to higher levels. That level can be increased either by changing the group norms to support higher levels of performance, or either increasing the supervisor pressure to produce at higher levels. Either way, those will change the norms. Lewin suggested that decreasing those forces, maintaining the status quo, produces less tension and resistance than increasing forces for change, and subsequently is a more effective strategy. So basically you could go two ways. You could increase the pressure or you can decrease the pressure. For the three-step change model to work, there are three basic steps. One is unfreezing. Basically you can look at that as kind of breaking loose the status quo, unclogging the river, breaking the dam, whatever you want to call that, and then moving, and then you refreeze at another state down the stream where progress has been made. The second model, our framework we want to look at, is called the action model, and it starts out with identifying the problem. Maybe the executive in charge knows there's a problem and he identifies it. They will consult with a behavioral science expert, a therapist, who will give some ideas for group dynamics and things that would help. They will gather data, and they will offer a preliminary diagnosis of what is causing the problem. Feedback then comes back to the key client or the group, and there's a joint diagnosis of the problem. They come to terms and understand what the issues are, and then they will have a joint action meeting, take some action, and then they will plan based on that to see if they actually accomplished their goals. Very complicated process within a culture of a plant or a factory or a business to do that. The positive model is one that has a lot of credibility, and it focuses basically on what the organization is doing right. Most organizations have many things that they are doing well, and so they function and want to build off of that positive energy. Somebody initiates an inquiry, they discover the themes, and they envision whatever the preferred future is, looking forward to that and trying to make that happen. The continuous change model is the one that most people probably will use today. It involves discovering the problem and designing a solution and then tailoring that solution to fit and then assessing your results. And so those all bring about that change. For our purposes in this class, we're going to kind of blend those models together. And this is going to be the model that we look at. These are the chapters that we're going to emphasize. You'll see these appearing in discussion questions and projects and things, so you know which chapter to go to. But entering and contracting, diagnosing, planning and implementation of change, evaluating and reinforcing that change. So as we go forward, I want to talk just briefly about each one of those and their importance. First of all, entering and contracting. So we have a problem. We want to change. And if so, we're willing to commit the necessary resources, that is time, money, and people, to affect that change. That usually comes from a leader, an executive who is willing. And this is where most change starts and stops, is in this first stage. Maybe they're not willing to put the money into it. For instance, if you want to do black belt, or you want to do teamwork, you want to do empowerment, that's about $1 million a year commitment. That's a lot of money. And so those considerations will be foremost in the owner's mind or in those that run the company. What about the time? You have to take people off the line, the assembly line or whatever they're doing, to be trained, to be involved. It takes time to do that. And that is a money commitment. It is a production commitment. And then, of course, do you have the people? Not every person in the company would be the kind of person you'd like to put on a project like this, because some people are just not educated enough, adept enough, have enough skills. So are we willing to put the resources into that? Also, they will ask that question, are we willing to divulge the data to see the problems? Not every company is willing to divulge information. They don't want that free floating. Once opportunities are revealed, then they will form a contract together to see that change. The second part of that is diagnosing, and that's chapter 5 and 6 of your textbook. Diagnosis is very important because it is key to this. In the stage of planned change, the client system is carefully studied. Diagnosis can focus on understanding organizational problems, including their causes, their consequences, or on collecting stories about the organization's positive attributes. Understanding how multiple changes may be supported or competing with each other is also explored. And the diagnostic process is one of the most important activities in organizational development, how you look at those and understand those. In the stage of planned change, the client system is carefully studied. Diagnosis can focus on understanding problems, causes, consequences, and so these are very important. Modeling. Sometimes organizations will model a change to see how that works. Maybe they do it on a small scale to see how it works. Gathering, analyzing, feeding data, and doing feedback are the central change activities in diagnosis. Chapter 6 describes how data can be gathered through interviews, through observations, survey instruments, or even archival sources as meeting minutes and organizational charts. All kinds of data. Data is the key in this day that we live in to finding all kinds of solutions. Then we go to planning and implementing change. Chapter 7 and 8 and 10 through 20. There are 4 major types of interventions in organizational development. There's human process interventions at the individual, the group, and the total system level. There are interventions that modify an organization's structure and work design. Sometimes it's about changing the work directions and habits and things that will bring about change. Human resource intervention seeks to improve member performance or wellness or well-being. Strategic interventions that involve managing the organization's relationship to its external environment and the internal structure and process necessary to support a strategy. So you need all kinds of support, and this is a big commitment. Change on this level is always a big commitment. And then evaluating, reinforcing. When it's over, you always spend time sitting down, evaluating the cost and what it did and whether the costs are worth it, and then reinforcement. You constantly have to reinforce change to keep your employees from going back in the other direction and undoing all the good that you've done. So these things are fluid in a sense because they move forward and backwards, but it's also important that you continue to support, continue to give that which is needed to see that it is a successful change. Thank you.